Radio broadcast transcript, WKLM 94.7 FM, October 15th, 2025, 6:47 a.m. Sable Lane, good morning, Pine County. You're listening to WKLM, your voice in the wilderness, and I'm Sable Lane bringing you another crisp October morning here in beautiful, isolated Maine. Temperatures sitting at a chilly 38 degrees, and that fog rolling off Moosehead Lake is thick enough to cut with a chainsaw. Perfect weather for static interference begins, low, intermittent crackling. Sable. Sorry folks, seems we're getting some interference this morning. Probably those military exercises up at the Cashas range again. You know how it is when the government boys come to play with their fancy equipment. Let me just adjust the static intensifies, becoming rhythmic, almost like Morse code. Emergency broadcast system. Automated tone. This is an emergency alert system activation. Stand by for an important message from the United States military. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 15th, 2025, 6:52 a.m. I should have known something was wrong when the emergency alert system kicked in without warning. In my 15 years running WKLM, I've never seen the military override our signal directly. The FCC handles emergency broadcasts. The National Weather Service handles weather emergencies. The military? They're supposed to stay in their lane. But there I was, watching my equipment light up like a Christmas tree, while some automated voice I'd never heard before cut through my morning show like a knife through butter. Radio broadcast transcript continued. Automated military voice. Attention residents of Pine County, Maine. This is Protocol 7 implementation. All civilian personnel are advised to maintain standard compliance procedures. Repeat. Maintain standard compliance procedures until further instruction. Non-compliance will result in administrative review. Static surge, voice becomes distorted. Automated military voice. Garbled, 77 Alpha 9er requesting confirmation of neural baseline readings in sector. Static, civilian response patterns nominal for Phase 1 implementation. Static, advise all units to monitor for anomalous. Signal cuts to dead air. Sable, after 10 seconds of silence. Well folks, that was unusual. I'm not entirely sure what we just heard there, but it seems like our friends in the military are running some kind of communication test. Standard compliance procedures? I don't know about you, but I've never heard of any standard compliance procedures for civilians in Pine County. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 15th, 2025, 7:15 a.m. The phone started ringing before I even finished my on-air response. Mrs. Henderson from Greenville panicked about whether she needed to evacuate. Tom Bradley from Millinocket, asking if this had anything to do with those black helicopters his grandson spotted last week. And then there was the call that made my blood run cold. WKLM, this is Sable. Ms. Lane, this is Communications Officer Breen North with the United States military. I need to speak with you about the transmission you just received. His voice was smooth, professional, the kind of voice that's been trained to sound reassuring even when delivering bad news. But there was something underneath it, something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Officer North, I was just about to call someone about that. What exactly was Protocol 7? And what are these standard compliance procedures you mentioned? A pause. Too long of a pause. Ma'am, that transmission was the result of a technical malfunction in our communications array. We're conducting routine training exercises in the Cashas region, and sometimes our signals can bleed over into civilian frequencies. I apologize for any confusion, but the message mentioned civilian compliance and administrative review. That doesn't sound like a malfunction. Another pause. Ms. Lane, I'm going to need you to refrain from speculating about military operations on your broadcast. For security reasons, you understand. What you heard was fragments of different training scenarios mixed together by signal interference. Nothing more. The way he said, nothing more, sent a chill down my spine. Radio broadcast transcript, WKLM 94.7 FM, October 15th, 2025, 7:23 a.m. Sable, all right Pine County, I've just gotten off the phone with Communications Officer Breen North from the U.S. military. He's assured me that this morning's emergency alert was the result of a technical malfunction during routine training exercises. So no need to panic, folks. Just your government doing government things. Static returns, faint but persistent. Sable. Though I have to admit, I'm curious about a few things. Like why a training exercise would mention civilian compliance procedures. Or why the military would have direct override access to local radio stations without going through proper channels. But hey, I'm just a small-town radio host. What do I know about military protocol? Static intensifies slightly. Sable. We'll be right back after these messages, and then I'll have Betty Cromwell from the Pine County Historical Society talking about the old logging camps. Stay tuned to WKLM, your voice in the wilderness. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 15th, 2025, 8:45 a.m. The static didn't stop after the commercial break. If anything, it got worse. It's been 3 hours now, and that low-frequency interference is still there, threading through every song, every announcement, every moment of dead air. I've checked all my equipment twice. Everything's functioning normally. But the static, there's something about it that doesn't sound random. It pulses. It ebbs and flows like it's following some kind of pattern. And if I listen closely, really closely, it almost sounds like voices. Whispered conversations just below the threshold of understanding. I called Breen North back an hour ago. Got his voicemail. Left a message about the ongoing interference. He hasn't called back. I've been in radio long enough to know the difference between technical difficulties and something else. Equipment malfunctions don't target specific phrases for interference. They don't seem to respond to certain topics of conversation. And they definitely don't get stronger when you start asking questions about military operations. The fog outside is getting thicker. Through my studio window, I can barely make out the pine trees that give our county its name. But I swear I can see lights moving through that fog. Lights that don't belong to any civilian vehicles I know. I've got a feeling this morning's emergency alert was just the beginning. Protocol 7. Standard compliance procedures. Neural baseline readings. Administrative review for non-compliance. What exactly are they preparing us for? And why do I get the feeling that asking that question just put me on some kind of list? Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 16th, 2025, 5:32 a.m. The static kept me awake all night. Not from the radio. I shut down the station at midnight like always. The static was in my head, replaying that garbled transmission over and over. Neural baseline readings. Phase 1 implementation. Anomalous what? The sentence cut off before I could catch the last word, but it's been gnawing at me like a splinter under the skin. I'm at the station early today, 2 hours before my usual show prep. The building feels different in the pre-dawn darkness, full of shadows that seem to shift when I'm not looking directly at them. Outside, that unnatural fog hasn't lifted. If anything, it's gotten thicker, pressing against the windows like something alive. The interference started the moment I powered up the equipment. Radio broadcast transcript, WKLM 94.7 FM, October 16th, 2025, 6 a.m. Sable, good morning, Pine County. This is Sable Lane, and if you're listening, you're probably as confused as I am about yesterday's military transmission. I've gotten dozens of calls from folks wanting answers I don't have. Yet, static intrusion, voices barely audible beneath. Sable, weather update for this morning. Fog advisory remains in effect for all of Pine County. Visibility less than a quarter mile in most areas. And it looks like we're getting that interference again, so bear with me while I... Emergency alert system override. Automated military voice. This is Emergency Protocol 7, Phase 2 implementation. Civilian personnel in evacuation zones Delta through Gamma are advised to relocate to designated safety areas immediately. Civilian personnel in evacuation zones Alpha through Charlie are advised to shelter in place until further notice. Static surge. Automated military voice. Distorted repeat. Delta through Gamma, immediate evacuation. Alpha through Charlie, maintain position. Non-compliance will result in signal cuts. Sable. After several seconds. Okay folks, we just had another one of those military transmissions, and this one's got me genuinely concerned. They're talking about evacuation zones, but they haven't told us which areas correspond to which letters. How is anyone supposed to know if they're in Zone Delta or Zone Alpha? Phone rings on air. Sable, WKLM, you're on the air. Caller, Sable, This is Deputy Lux Monroe with the Pine County Sheriff's Department. I need to talk to you off the air. Can you meet me at Dolly's Diner in 20 minutes? Sable, Deputy Monroe, can't you just tell our listeners what's going on? People are scared. LUX, not over the radio. 20 minutes, Sable. This is important. Line goes dead. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 16th, 2025, 6:45 a.m. I left my assistant Mike to handle the music rotation and drove through that soup-thick fog to meet Lux Monroe. I'd seen her around town, but never really talked to her. She's one of those quiet, competent types who seem to notice everything while saying nothing. The kind of person who becomes a cop because they actually want to help people, not because they like the authority. She was waiting in the back booth at Dolly's, nursing black coffee and looking like she hadn't slept. Her uniform was rumpled, and there were dark circles under her eyes that spoke of long nights and difficult questions. Sable, she said without preamble, how long have you been getting these military transmissions? Started yesterday morning. Why? She pulled out a small notebook, flipped through several pages. We've had 17 missing person reports filed in the last 24 hours. 17 people, all from different parts of the county, all last seen around the time of your first broadcast. The coffee in my mouth suddenly tasted like ash. Missing how? Gone. Vanished. Cars left in driveways, doors unlocked, dinners half-eaten on kitchen tables. Like they just walked away from their lives mid-sentence. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. And here's the thing that's got me spooked. I can't get any information from the military about these so-called training exercises. Usually they coordinate with local law enforcement. This time, nothing. What about those evacuation zones they mentioned? That's what I wanted to ask you. Have you seen any official evacuation zone maps? Any emergency management announcements? Because I've checked with the county emergency coordinator, the state police, even the National Guard liaison. Nobody knows anything about zones Alpha through Gamma. The diner felt suddenly cold despite the warmth from the kitchen. Outside, the fog pressed against the windows like curious fingers. Radio broadcast transcript. WKLM 94.7 FM, October 16th, 2025, 7:30 a.m. Sable. Back on air. This is WKLM, and I've just spoken with Deputy Lux Monroe about this morning's evacuation notice. Folks, if you're hearing these military transmissions and don't know which evacuation zone you're in, you're not alone. The Pine County Sheriff's Department hasn't received any official evacuation zone maps or emergency protocols. Static intensifies, voices more distinct but still unintelligible. Sable, what I'm going to suggest is that everyone stay calm and stay put until we get more information. Don't evacuate based on unclear instructions. If there's a real emergency, proper authorities will provide clear, specific guidance through official channels. Phone rings. Sable, WKLM, you're on the air. Breen North, Ms. Lane, this is Communications Officer North. I need you to stop broadcasting speculation about military operations immediately. Sable, Officer North, people are confused and scared. They need information. Breen, what they need is to follow instructions without question. The evacuation zones are clearly marked for those who need to know. Sable, but nobody knows where these zones are. The Sheriff's Department. Breen, Ms. Lane, I'm going to ask you one more time to cease broadcasting unauthorized commentary about ongoing military operations. Your interference with civilian compliance is noted. Line goes dead. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 16th, 2025, 11:45 a.m. There it was again. Civilian compliance. The way Breen said it made my skin crawl, like he was talking about training animals rather than informing citizens. The static has been getting worse all morning. It's not random anymore, I'm sure of it. The interference seems to respond to certain words, certain topics. Every time I mention the missing persons, it gets stronger. When I talked about evacuation zones, it almost drowned out my voice entirely. And the voices, they're clearer now. Still not quite understandable, but definitely human. Sometimes they sound like conversations, other times like people reading lists or coordinates. There's an urgency to them, like they're trying to communicate something important. I tried calling Lux back after the show, but it went straight to voicemail. Her message said she was following up on the missing person reports, but something in her voice sounded different. Strained. Worried. I've been thinking about what Brecken said. The evacuation zones are clearly marked for those who need to know. What does that mean? Are there people who can see something the rest of us can't? Some kind of information we're not privy to? The fog outside hasn't lifted at all today. If anything, it's gotten thicker, and now there are definitely lights moving through it. Not car headlights. These move too smoothly, too purposefully. They sweep back and forth like searchlights, but I can't tell what they're searching for. Or who. I keep thinking about those 17 missing people. Were they in the wrong evacuation zone? Did they fail to comply with something? Or were they selected for some other reason entirely? The static is whispering again. I swear it's trying to tell me something, but every time I think I'm about to understand, the words slip away like smoke. There's something happening in Pine County, something that goes way beyond routine military exercises. The question is, are these unclear instructions designed to confuse us, or are they perfectly clear to someone else? And if they are clear to someone else, what does that make the rest of us? Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 17th, 2025, 3:17 a.m. I couldn't sleep again. The static has followed me home now, bleeding through every electronic device in my house. The radio in my kitchen picks up whispered conversations at 2 a.m. My cell phone crackles with interference even when it's turned off. Even my old digital alarm clock displays numbers that flicker and change when I'm not looking directly at them. But tonight was different. Tonight, I heard something that made me understand why I haven't been able to let this go. My name. Clear as day, buried in the static. Sable Lane, anomalous response confirmed. They're not just monitoring the broadcasts. They're monitoring me. I called the one person I thought might be able to help, Cashas Hart. Most people in Pine County think he's just another conspiracy nut with too much time and too many theories. But Cashas has something the rest of US don't, the technical knowledge to trace signals and decode transmissions. If anyone can help me figure out what's really happening, it's him. Radio broadcast transcript, WKLM 94.7 FM, October 17th, 2025, 6 a.m. Sable, good morning, Pine County. Day 3 of our mystery military transmissions, and I'm starting to think we need to take a more active approach to getting answers. The fog's finally starting to lift this morning, but the questions remain as thick as ever. Static intrusion, more organized, almost rhythmic. Sable, I've invited a special guest to join us this morning. Cashas Hart is a local amateur radio operator and signals analyst. Cashas, thank you for emergency alert system override. Automated military voice. Emergency Protocol 7, Phase 3 implementation. All civilian personnel are advised that information quarantine procedures are now in effect. Unauthorized discussion of military operations constitutes a security violation. Report any anomalous behavior to designated authorities immediately. New voice, different from previous alerts. Secondary military voice. Slightly distorted sector-wide neural mapping at 73% completion. Targets exhibiting Class A response patterns have been identified and are under active surveillance. Proceed to Phase 4 when confirmation is received. Static surge, then sudden silence. Sable. After a pause, Cashas, did you get all that? Cashas Hart. Speaking quickly, nervously. Sable, we need to get off the air. Right now. That wasn't a standard emergency broadcast. Those were two different transmission sources, and the second one was never meant for civilian reception. Sable, what do you mean never meant for civilian reception? Cashas, the frequency signature, the encryption artifacts, that was military to military communication. Someone's been piggybacking classified transmissions on your emergency alerts. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 17th, 2025, 7:45 a.m. Cashas and I spent the next hour off-air, huddled over his mobile signal analysis equipment in the WKLM parking lot. What he showed me turned my blood to ice water. Look at this, he said, pointing to a cascade of frequency readings on his laptop screen. Your station isn't just receiving these transmissions. It's being used as a relay point. Someone's routing military communications through your broadcast equipment. That's impossible. I would know if. Not if they installed the relay remotely. Modern software-defined radios can be reconfigured without physical access. They could have turned your station into a military communications hub without you ever knowing. He pulled up another screen, showing signal traces from the past 3 days. But here's the really disturbing part. The transmission strength isn't consistent. It gets stronger when certain topics are discussed, weaker when you talk about other things. It's like the system is learning what triggers the strongest response from your listeners. Response from listeners? Cashas looked uncomfortable. Sable, I think your radio station has been turned into some kind of neural response monitoring system. They're not just broadcasting to your audience, they're measuring how your audience reacts to different stimuli. The implications hit me like a physical blow. The missing people could be the ones who reacted most strongly to the transmissions, or maybe the ones who didn't react at all. Without knowing what they're looking for, it's impossible to say. Radio broadcast transcript, WKLM 94.7 FM, October 17th, 2025, 8:30 a.m. Sable. Back on air, this is WKLM, and I'm here with Cashas Hart. Cashas has been analyzing the military transmissions we've been receiving, and what he's found is concerning. Cashas, Sable, I want to be very careful about what we say on air, but I can confirm that these aren't standard emergency broadcasts. The signal characteristics suggest a much more sophisticated operation. Static returns more aggressive than before. Sable. Cashas thinks our station is being used as some kind of relay point for military communications. Is that possible? Cashas. Voice becoming strained. It's not just possible, it's wait. Sable, look at my equipment readings. The interference just spiked when you said relay point. Static intensifies dramatically. Cashas. Urgently, they're listening to us right now. The system is responding to keywords in real time. Every time we get close to the truth, the interference gets stronger. Phone rings. Sable, WKLM, you're on the air. Lux Monroe. Voice tight with tension. Sable, this is Lux. I need you to listen very carefully. Military vehicles just set up roadblocks on routes 6 and 15. They're checking IDs and asking people about their radio listening habits. Don't come into town today. Sable, Lux, what's going on? LUX, 3 more people went missing last night. All of them were regular listeners to your show. All of them called the station in the past week asking questions about the transmissions. Static surge drowns out conversation. Cashas, shouting over interference. Sable, we need to shut down the broadcast. They're triangulating our position. Transmission cuts to dead air. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 17th, 2025, 2:30 p.m. We killed the transmission and got out of there fast. Cashas insisted we drive to his cabin in the deep woods, away from any major roads or cell towers. He's convinced they're using the radio transmissions to track people who show anomalous responses to the military alerts. Think about it, he said as we drove through increasingly remote forest roads. They broadcast these unclear instructions, then monitor who tries to make sense of them. People who ask questions, who dig deeper, who refuse to just comply blindly. Those are the anomalous ones. Those are the people they're interested in. I've been thinking about the missing persons list Lux mentioned. 17 people, now 20. All listeners to my show. All people who called with questions about the transmissions. But why? I asked. What makes curious people dangerous to a military operation? Cashas pulled his truck to a stop beside a small cabin hidden deep in the pine forest. Maybe they're not dangerous. Maybe they're useful. Think about what that second transmission said. Neural mapping, Class A response patterns. What if they're not trying to eliminate people who respond strongly to the transmissions? What if they're collecting them? The static is still with us, even here in the middle of nowhere. It's faint, but persistent, like a signal trying to lock onto our location. Cashas has his equipment spread across his kitchen table, monitoring military frequencies and trying to decode the patterns we've been hearing. There, he said suddenly, pointing to his screen. Do you see that? The static isn't random, it's data. Encrypted data streams piggybacking on the interference. Someone's been using the static to transmit information. He ran the audio through a decryption program, and slowly, words began to emerge from the noise. Target identification complete. Sable Lane confirmed Class A responder. Cashas Hart confirmed Class A responder. Deputy Lux Monroe flagged for investigation. Initiate collection protocols Phase 4. We stared at each other in horror. We weren't investigating them. They were studying us. The military isn't issuing unclear instructions by accident. They're perfectly clear to the people they're meant for, the people running the operation. The confusion, the missing persons, the anomalous responses they keep mentioning, it's all part of the plan. They're not trying to inform us or protect us. They're hunting us. And we just told them exactly where we are. Outside Cashas's cabin, I can hear vehicles approaching through the forest. No headlights, but the sound of engines getting closer. The static in my head is getting louder, more insistent. And for the first time, I think I understand what it's been trying to tell me all along. Run. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 18th, 2025, 4:43 a.m. We escaped Cashas's cabin by the skin of our teeth. 3 black SUVs had surrounded the place within minutes of that decoded transmission, but Cashas knew the forest trails better than they knew their GPS coordinates. We slipped out through a deer path he'd used for hunting since he was 12, leaving our vehicles behind and hiking through dense pine forest for 6 hours in the dark. I'm writing this from an abandoned fire tower deep in the Allagash wilderness. My fingers are numb from cold, and every shadow looks like a soldier with night vision goggles. But we're alive, and more importantly, we're starting to understand what we're really dealing with. Cashas has been monitoring military frequencies on a battery-powered scanner he grabbed as we fled. What we've intercepted over the past few hours has turned my understanding of this entire situation upside down. They call it Operation Minebridge. Intercepted military transmission, channel 7.142 MHz, October 18th, 2025, 5:15 a.m. Voice 1 Breen North. Alpha Base, this is Communication Officer North. Targets Lane and Hart have gone dark. Last known position was grid reference 7, Alpha 9. Voice 2 Unknown. Copy that North. What's the status on neural mapping completion for Sector 12? Breen, 87% completion. We've identified 43 Class A responders and 12 Class B candidates. The radio station gambit worked better than projected. Lane's audience showed remarkably strong pattern recognition abilities. Voice 2. Any complications with the Monroe situation? Breen, Deputy Monroe is proving more persistent than anticipated. She's been asking questions about federal jurisdiction and requesting documentation we can't provide through normal channels. Recommend escalation to Phase 5 protocols. Voice 2 Negative. Monroe may still be useful for mapping local law enforcement neural baselines. Continue observation. What about civilian compliance with the information quarantine? Breen Mixed results. Approximately 60% of the population has ceased discussing the transmissions as instructed. The remaining 40% continues to exhibit anomalous curiosity patterns. These individuals have been flagged for collection or elimination as per operational parameters. Voice 2 Understood. Initiate Phase 4 collection protocols for confirmed Class A responders. Priority targets remain Lane and Hart. Their neural signature profiles suggest exceptional potential for the program. Static interference. Breen, copy that. Should I maintain the confused communications officer persona when dealing with remaining media personnel? Voice 2 Affirmative. The confusion protocol has been highly effective in identifying targets who attempt to decode seemingly unclear instructions. Only subjects with specific neural architecture patterns can successfully interpret our intentionally scrambled transmissions. End transmission. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 18th, 2025, 6:30 a.m. The bastard. Breen North has been playing me from the beginning. Every confused phone call, every apology for technical difficulties, every reassurance that the transmissions were just routine exercises. It was all an act. He's been studying how I react to their deliberately garbled messages, measuring my responses, mapping my neural patterns. Cashas is hunched over his equipment, cross-referencing the frequencies we've intercepted with federal communications databases he somehow has access to. I don't ask too many questions about his sources. Right now, I'm grateful for any information that might keep us alive. Sable, he whispered, pointing to his screen. Look at this. Operation Minebridge isn't just happening in Maine. I'm picking up similar transmissions from 17 different states. This is a nationwide program. The scope of what we've stumbled into is staggering. They're using emergency alert systems across the country to identify people with specific mental capabilities, then either recruiting or eliminating them. The unclear instructions aren't a communication failure, they're a screening test. Radio broadcast transcript, WKLM 94.7 FM, October 18th, 2025, 8 a.m. Emergency alert system override. Automated military voice, Emergency Protocol 7, Phase 4 implementation. All civilian personnel are advised to report individuals exhibiting anomalous behavior patterns. Signs include excessive curiosity about official communications, attempts to decode or interpret emergency broadcasts, unauthorized signal analysis, and coordination with other anomalous individuals. New automated voice, clearly generated. Secondary voice. Citizens who report anomalous behavior will be rewarded with priority access to essential services during the ongoing state of emergency. Failure to report anomalous behavior constitutes a security violation and will result in investigation. Brief silence, then Breen North's voice live. Breen North. This is Communication Officer North with the U.S. Military Emergency Response Unit. I want to speak directly to Sable Lane and Cashas Hart, who I know are monitoring this frequency. Mississippi Lane, Mr. Hart, you have 24 hours to report to the Pine County Sheriff's Department for voluntary debriefing. This is not a request. Your unauthorized signal analysis activities have compromised an ongoing national security operation. However, your demonstrated abilities make you valuable assets rather than enemy combatants. Report voluntarily, and you'll be offered positions within the Minebridge program with full benefits and security clearance. Continue to evade federal authorities, and you'll be classified as enemy combatants operating on American soil. The choice is yours. But make no mistake, we will find you either way. Static surge, transmission ends. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 18th, 2025, 10:15 a.m. Voluntary debriefing. Right. More like voluntary lobotomy. Cashas intercepted another transmission about 20 minutes after Breken's ultimatum. Apparently, Phase 4 involves what they call neural integration protocols. From what we could decode, it means they either incorporate useful subjects into their program as assets, or they eliminate subjects whose neural patterns might interfere with their operations. Either way, we lose our freedom. Either way, we stop being who we are. The most chilling part is how systematic this all is. They've been planning this for months, maybe years. Setting up relay points in local radio stations, mapping population neural baselines, identifying individuals with specific mental capabilities. The missing persons weren't random. They were targeted selections based on psychological profiles. Cashas showed me something that made my blood run cold. He'd been tracking the missing persons reports and correlating them with radio listening habits, social media activity, and public records. Every single missing person had called into a talk radio show in the past 6 months. Every single one had posted questions about government activities on social media. Every single one had demonstrated what Operation Minebridge classifies as anomalous curiosity patterns. They're not just collecting people who can decode their scrambled transmissions. They're collecting people who ask questions, people who dig deeper, people who refuse to accept confusing official statements at face value. They're collecting people like us. Intercepted military transmission, channel 3.894 MHz, October 18th, 2025, 12:30 p.m. Voice 1 unknown. Minebridge command to all field units. Phase 4 collection protocols are active for priority targets Lane and Hart. Local law enforcement has been briefed on cooperation requirements. Voice 2 unknown. Copy Minebridge command. What's our approach if targets continue resistance? Voice 1. Neural mapping indicates both targets possess Class A pattern recognition and signal analysis capabilities. These skills make them extremely valuable for the program, but also extremely dangerous if they remain uncontrolled. Authorization is granted for enhanced collection protocols if standard recruitment fails. Voice 2, understood. What about collateral civilian exposure? Voice 1. Acceptable losses are authorized to maintain operational security. The Minebridge program takes priority over individual civilian safety concerns. However, wide-scale exposure events should be avoided when possible. Breen North. Joining transmission, Communication Officer North reporting. I've established contact with Deputy Monroe. She's asking difficult questions about federal jurisdiction and requesting documentation. Recommend immediate collection. Voice 1, negative. Monroe's law enforcement background makes her useful for mapping institutional authority response patterns. Continue observation and maintain the confusion protocol. If she becomes too persistent, initiate standard neutralization procedures. Brecken, copy that. Should I continue the technical difficulties cover story? Voice 1, affirmative. Confusion and misdirection protocols remain highly effective for target identification. Maintain persona until collection is complete. End transmission. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 18th, 2025, 2:45 p.m. They're going to kill Lux. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but the moment she gets too close to the truth, they'll eliminate her just like they've eliminated 20 other people who ask too many questions. I can't let that happen. Lux trusted me enough to share information about the missing persons. She believed me when I told her something was wrong with the military transmissions. She put her career and her safety on the line to help me investigate. Now she's going to die for it unless I do something. Cashas thinks I'm crazy. He wants to disappear completely, head to Canada or Mexico, get as far away from Operation Minebridge as possible. He's probably right. It's probably the smart choice. But I can't abandon Lux. And I can't let them continue using my radio station to hunt innocent people. The static in my head is getting stronger again. Not the chaotic interference we've been hearing, but something more organized, more purposeful. It's like my brain is learning to interpret signals that weren't meant for conscious perception. Cashas noticed it too. Your neural patterns are adapting, he said, studying readings from a makeshift EEG device he rigged from spare electronics. The more exposure you have to their transmissions, the more sensitive you become to hidden frequencies. That's probably why they want Class A responders so badly. We're developing capabilities they can use, or capabilities they need to eliminate. Emergency Alert System Broadcast, all channels, October 18th, 2025, 4 p.m. Automated voice. This is an emergency message from the Department of Homeland Security. 2 individuals wanted for questioning in connection with terrorist activities are believed to be hiding in the Pine County region of Maine. Sable Lane and Cashas Hart are considered armed and extremely dangerous. Citizens are advised not to approach these individuals. Instead, report any sightings immediately to local law enforcement or military personnel. A reward of $50,000 is being offered for information leading to their capture. These individuals have been using radio equipment to interfere with legitimate emergency communications, potentially putting lives at risk during ongoing military exercises in the region. Remember, if you see something, say something. Your vigilance helps keep America safe. Static interference, then silence. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 18th, 2025, 6:20 p.m. Terrorists. They're calling us terrorists. 24 hours ago, I was a small-town radio DJ trying to make sense of confusing military broadcasts. Now I'm a fugitive wanted by federal authorities, hiding in an abandoned fire tower, branded as a threat to national security. The reward money will turn every person in Pine County into a potential bounty hunter. $50,000 is more than most people here make in a year. They'll be checking every hunting cabin, every old building, every place someone might hide. But the worst part is that some people will believe it. They'll actually think Cashas and I are terrorists, that we've been sabotaging emergency communications, that we're the real danger here. The truth has become irrelevant. Operation Minebridge has the resources, the authority, and the credibility to make their version of reality the official version. We're not whistleblowers exposing a conspiracy. We're terrorists disrupting national security. Cashas has been monitoring police frequencies. Every law enforcement agency within 100 miles has been mobilized to search for us. They're using heat sensors, search dogs, and military-grade surveillance equipment. It's only a matter of time before they find us. But I'm not giving up. Not yet. Tonight, when most of the search teams return to base, I'm going back to Pine County. I'm going to warn Lux about what's really happening, and I'm going to make one final broadcast on WKLM. If Operation Minebridge wants to silence people who ask questions, then I'm going to ask every question I can think of before they shut me up permanently. The static in my head is becoming clearer now. I can almost make out individual voices, specific conversations. Cashas is right. Prolonged exposure to their transmissions is changing something in my brain. I'm becoming more sensitive to frequencies that normal people can't perceive. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted all along. Maybe I'm becoming exactly what they need me to become. Or maybe I'm becoming something they should have eliminated when they had the chance. End personal log. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 1:22 a.m. I made it back to Pine County, but everything has changed. The town I've called home for 15 years feels alien now, transformed into something out of a military occupation film. Checkpoints on every major road, soldiers in unmarked fatigues patrolling Main Street, and an eerie silence where normal nighttime sounds should be. The most disturbing part is how normal everyone acts during the day. People go to work, children walk to school, life continues as if armed federal agents aren't searching every building for two terrorists who used to be their neighbors. Either they've been convinced we're actually dangerous, or they're too afraid to show any sympathy. I'm hiding in the basement of Murphy's old auto shop on the outskirts of town. Murphy died 3 years ago, and his family never sold the property. It's been boarded up ever since, which makes it perfect for someone who needs to stay invisible. Cashas thinks I'm insane for coming back, but I couldn't abandon Lux. Not when I know what they're planning to do to her. The static in my head has evolved into something I can barely describe. It's not just random noise anymore. It's like having access to dozens of radio frequencies simultaneously. I can hear military communications, cell phone conversations, even the electronic hum of surveillance equipment. The neural changes Cashas detected are accelerating. I think I'm becoming something they never intended to create. Emergency Alert System broadcast, all channels, October 19th, 2025, 6 a.m. Automated voice, Emergency Protocol 7, Phase 5 implementation. Effective immediately, communication blackouts will be implemented in designated sectors to prevent terrorist interference with emergency services. Affected areas include Downtown Pine County, Sectors 1 to 4, Millfield Road Corridor, Sectors 7 to 9, and Lakeside Residential District, Sectors 12 to 15. Cell phone service, internet access, and radio communications will be suspended in these areas until further notice. Citizens in affected sectors should report to designated community centers for information updates. Do not attempt to leave blackout zones without proper authorization. This temporary measure is necessary to ensure public safety during ongoing counterterrorism operations. Second automated voice, slightly different inflection. Secondary voice, neural mapping data collection will continue during communication blackouts. Residents in affected sectors are required to remain in their homes between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. for enhanced monitoring procedures. Compliance with blackout protocols is mandatory. Violations will result in immediate detention and interrogation. End transmission. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 8:45 a.m. The communication blackouts are strategic. I've been monitoring the sectors they've targeted, and they all correspond to areas where people have been asking questions about the military presence. Downtown Pine County is where the library and newspaper office are located, places where someone might research federal jurisdiction laws or try to contact outside media. The Lakeside District is where most of the town's tech workers live, people who might have the skills to analyze the signal anomalies. They're not just cutting off communications to prevent interference. They're isolating potential troublemakers, creating dead zones where people can disappear without anyone knowing. I managed to get close enough to the sheriff's department to observe Lux's situation. What I saw made my blood run cold. Surveillance log, Pine County Sheriff's Department, October 19th, 2025, 9:30 a.m. Observing through basement window, Sable Lane. 3 black SUVs parked outside the sheriff's department. Military personnel in civilian clothes posted at all entrances. Lux's patrol car in the parking lot, but I haven't seen her enter or exit the building all morning. A man in a dark suit, definitely federal, approached the building at 9:15. Tall, thin, moving with a kind of purposeful stride that suggests authority. He spoke briefly with the guards before entering through the main entrance. At 9:22, I heard raised voices from inside the building. Couldn't make out specific words, but the tone was confrontational. Lux's voice, definitely Lux's voice, arguing with someone. At 9:28, the shouting stopped abruptly. The federal agent exited the building at 9:31, speaking into a radio device. I caught fragments of his transmission. Subject is more persistent than anticipated. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 6. Lux hasn't come outside since the argument ended. End surveillance log. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 11:15 a.m. I had to get closer. I had to know what happened to Lux. Using the storm drain system that runs under Main Street, I managed to get within 30 feet of the sheriff's department. The enhanced hearing that's been developing since my exposure to the military transmissions allowed me to pick up conversations that should have been impossible to hear. What I learned changed everything I thought I knew about Operation Minebridge. Intercepted conversation, Pine County Sheriff's Department, October 19th, 2025, 11 a.m. Recorded via enhanced auditory sensitivity, Sable Lane. Federal Agent. Deputy Monroe, your questions about federal jurisdiction are becoming problematic. Lux Monroe, I have a right to understand what's happening in my jurisdiction. 23 people are missing, and you're telling me it's classified? Federal Agent, those individuals weren't taken, Deputy. They volunteered for a special program. LUX volunteered? Martha Henderson was 78 years old and lived alone with her cats. What program could she possibly volunteer for? Federal Agent, Mrs. Henderson exhibited remarkable neural responsiveness during our initial screening phases. Her pattern recognition scores were in the top percentile of the population. LUX, neural responsiveness? What the hell are you talking about? Federal Agent, Deputy, I'm going to share something with you that's classified at the highest levels. Operation Minebridge is identifying individuals with latent psychic abilities. People who can process information in ways that normal human cognition cannot. LUX, that's insane. Federal Agent, is it? You've been investigating these disappearances with remarkable intuition. You've made connections that trained federal investigators missed. You've demonstrated abilities that suggest you might be exactly what we're looking for. LUX, I'm good at my job. That doesn't make me psychic. Federal Agent, the radio broadcasts were designed to identify people like you, Deputy. People whose brains can decode information that appears random to others. Sable Lane scored off the charts. So did Cashas' heart. And so did you. Long pause. LUX, you're recruiting psychics. Federal Agent, we're recruiting the next evolution of human intelligence, Deputy. The individuals who volunteer for the Minebridge program receive enhancements that amplify their natural abilities. They become something more than human. LUX, and the ones who don't volunteer? Federal Agent, the ones who don't volunteer become security risks. People with enhanced cognitive abilities who refuse to work with the government tend to work against the government. LUX, so you eliminate them. Federal Agent, we neutralize potential threats. It's not personal, Deputy. It's national security. End intercepted conversation. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 12:30 p.m. Psychics. They're hunting psychics. The military transmissions, the neural mapping, the missing persons. It's all part of a program to identify and recruit people with latent extrasensory abilities. The static in my head isn't just electromagnetic interference. It's my brain learning to process information on frequencies that normal human consciousness can't access. That's why the missing persons were targeted. That's why I can hear conversations through walls now. That's why Cashas could decode encrypted transmissions that should have been impossible to crack. We're not just curious people who ask too many questions. We're something else. Something they want to control or eliminate. The federal agent gave Lux an ultimatum. Join the program voluntarily or be classified as a threat. From what I could hear, she asked for time to consider the offer. They gave her 24 hours. I know Lux. She won't join them willingly, which means in 24 hours, she'll become another missing person. Unless I do something to stop it. Emergency Alert System broadcast, all channels, October 19th, 2025, 2 p.m. Automated voice, Emergency Protocol 7, Phase 5 Alpha implementation. Enhanced monitoring procedures are now active in all sectors. Residents may experience temporary auditory phenomena as neural mapping equipment calibrates. Do not be alarmed by unusual sounds, whispered voices, or static interference in electronic devices. These effects are temporary and pose no health risks. Citizens experiencing enhanced sensory perception should report to community centers immediately for evaluation and assistance. Failure to report enhanced abilities constitutes a security violation and will result in mandatory collection. Static surge, then new voice. Breen North. Live transmission. This is Communication Officer North with a special message for Sable Lane. Mississippi Lane, we know you've returned to Pine County. We know you can hear this transmission, even without radio equipment. Your enhanced abilities make you extremely valuable to the Minebridge program, but your continued resistance is putting innocent lives at risk. Deputy Monroe's future depends on your cooperation. Report to the Pine County Sheriff's Department by 6 p.m. today, and Deputy Monroe will be released unharmed. Continue to hide, and she'll be classified as an enemy collaborator. The choice is yours, Mississippi Lane. But remember, we can hear your thoughts now just as clearly as you can hear ours. End transmission. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 3:45 p.m. They can hear my thoughts. The neural enhancements aren't just allowing me to receive information on new frequencies. They're making me into a living transmitter. Every thought, every plan, every emotion is being broadcast to their monitoring equipment. That's how they found us so quickly at Cashas's cabin. That's how they know I'm back in Pine County. My enhanced brain is betraying me to the very people I'm trying to hide from. But if they can read my thoughts, then maybe I can read theirs. I've been experimenting with the enhanced auditory sensitivity, trying to focus on specific frequencies. It's like learning to tune a radio, but instead of mechanical dials, I'm using pure concentration. And slowly, I'm beginning to hear things that were never meant for human perception. The federal agents in Pine County are receiving orders from something called Minebridge Command. Their mission parameters are more extensive than just recruiting psychics. They're mapping the neural baselines of the entire population, identifying genetic markers that correlate with enhanced abilities. The people they've collected aren't just volunteers. They're test subjects, guinea pigs for experimental procedures that either enhance their abilities or destroy their minds in the attempt. Martha Henderson, the 78-year-old woman Lux mentioned, didn't volunteer for anything. She was taken because her brain showed unusual patterns when exposed to their transmissions. They've been experimenting on her for weeks. Most of the test subjects don't survive the enhancement procedures. The ones who do survive aren't human anymore. Intercepted mental transmission, unknown source, October 19th, 2025, 4:20 p.m. Received via enhanced neural sensitivity, Sable Lane. Lane's resistance patterns are stronger than predicted. Neural firewall development exceeding normal parameters. Subject may be developing countermeasures to our monitoring. Recommend immediate collection before subject learns to block our access. Enhanced individuals who develop privacy shields become impossible to control. Monroe situation deteriorating. Local law enforcement showing signs of organized resistance. May need to implement town-wide pacification protocols. Minebridge Phase 6 authorization pending. Full neural override capabilities ready for deployment. Subjects who resist integration will be permanently neutralized. Transmission fragmenting, becoming unintelligible. End intercepted transmission. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 5:30 p.m. I can block them. The enhanced neural activity that makes me vulnerable to their monitoring also gives me the ability to create what they call privacy shields. Mental barriers that prevent them from reading my thoughts. It takes enormous concentration, like holding your breath while running a marathon, but it's possible. For the past hour, I've been practicing the technique, and their monitoring equipment can't track me when the shield is active. The problem is that maintaining the shield is exhausting. I can only hold it for a few minutes at a time before the mental strain becomes overwhelming. But a few minutes might be enough. Lux has less than 30 minutes before their ultimatum expires. The federal agents are planning something called town-wide pacification protocols if local resistance continues. And Phase 6 of Operation Minebridge involves full neural override capabilities. which sounds like mass mind control. I can't save everyone, but maybe I can save Lux. Maybe I can expose what's really happening before they implement Phase 6. Maybe I can turn my enhanced abilities against the people who created them. The static in my head is changing again. Instead of chaos, I'm hearing something that sounds almost like music. Complex harmonies, mathematical patterns, frequencies that seem to resonate with the structure of consciousness itself. I think I'm beginning to understand what the Minebridge program is really designed to create. And I think they've made a terrible mistake in targeting me. End personal log. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 7:45 p.m. The mental shield held for exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds before collapsing like a house of cards. When it failed, the psychic backlash hit me like a freight train. Every thought I'd tried to protect came flooding back to their monitoring equipment in a chaotic rush of panic and desperation. They know I can shield my thoughts now. They know I intercepted their classified transmissions. Most importantly, they know I'm planning something for tonight. But what they don't know is that the shield collapse wasn't accidental. It was bait. Emergency alert system broadcast, all channels, October 19th, 2025, 8 p.m. Automated voice, Emergency Protocol 7, Phase 5 Beta implementation. Multiple contradictory emergency situations have been detected in Pine County. Citizens are advised to follow all instructions carefully. Evacuation order. All residents of downtown Pine County must evacuate immediately to Millfield Community Center. Leave all electronic devices behind. Bring only essential medications and identification. Shelter-in-place order. All residents of downtown Pine County must remain in their homes with doors and windows sealed. Do not venture outside under any circumstances. Military personnel will conduct door-to-door wellness checks. Communication alert. All cellular and internet services in Pine County have been compromised by terrorist activity. Do not trust any electronic communications received after 8 p.m. Report suspicious messages to the nearest military checkpoint. Counter alert. Previous emergency broadcasts have been infiltrated by hostile forces. Disregard all evacuation and shelter orders. Normal business hours resume tomorrow at 9 a.m. Alert system begins cycling through all 4 messages simultaneously, creating an incomprehensible cascade of contradictory instructions. Breen North. Live override transmission. This is Communication Officer North. Disregard all previous alerts. Technical difficulties are causing system malfunctions. Stand by for accurate information. Static surge drowns out transmission. Distorted voice. Identity unclear. The alerts are not malfunctioning. They are exactly what they appear to be. Multiple realities converging on a single point in space-time. Pine County is experiencing dimensional hemorrhaging caused by transmission cuts to dead air. End alert system broadcast. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 8:30 p.m. The contradictory alerts are working exactly as I hoped. I've been using my enhanced abilities to inject false information into their communication systems, creating confusion and paranoia among the military personnel. Every time they try to issue a coherent instruction, I scramble the signal with competing messages. But the effort is destroying my mind. Each time I hack into their broadcast systems, I have to open my consciousness to frequencies that human brains weren't designed to process. The neural pathways that allow me to interface with their equipment are burning out from overuse. I can feel synapses literally dissolving as I push my enhanced abilities beyond their limits. The music in my head, those mathematical harmonies I mentioned earlier, has become a screaming discord of broken frequencies. It's like listening to a symphony played by musicians who are all following different sheet music while their instruments catch fire. I estimate I have maybe 3 more broadcasts before permanent brain damage makes me useless to everyone, including myself. But 3 broadcasts might be enough to save Lux and expose Operation Minebridge to the outside world. Intercepted military communication, Pine County Command Center, October 19th, 2025, 9:15 p.m. Received via neural hacking, Sable Lane. Command Officer, Officer North, what is the status of the lane situation? Breen North, subject has developed offensive capabilities beyond our projections, sir. She's actively sabotaging our communication systems and creating chaos among the civilian population. Command Officer, can you re-establish control of the broadcast systems? Breen North, negative. Every time we attempt to override her interference, she adapts to our countermeasures. It's like she's learning our protocols in real time. Command Officer, how is that possible? Breen North, sir, I don't think Lane is just enhanced. I think she's evolving. The neural modifications we've observed in Minebridge subjects typically stabilize after the initial enhancement period. Lane's brain is continuing to develop new capabilities. Command Officer, explain. Breen North, she's not just intercepting our communications anymore. She's rewriting them, changing the content at the source level. That requires an understanding of our encryption protocols that should be impossible for any human brain to achieve. Command Officer, are you suggesting she's no longer human? Breen North, I'm suggesting she's becoming something we didn't plan for. Something we might not be able to control. Command Officer, recommendation? Breen North, immediate implementation of Protocol 8. Full neural override for all enhanced subjects in the area. If we can't control Lane directly, we eliminate her through the neural feedback loop. Command Officer, what about collateral damage to other Minebridge assets? Breen North, acceptable losses, sir. Lane has become too dangerous to remain active. End intercepted communication. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19, 2025, 10 p.m. Protocol 8 is a kill switch. They're planning to send a neural override signal that will burn out the enhanced brain tissue in every Minebridge subject within a 50-mile radius. It's a scorched earth approach. They'll lose their other assets, but they'll eliminate me as a threat. The signal will be transmitted at 11 p.m. through the same frequency I've been using to hack their systems. They're turning my own enhanced abilities against me. But they've made one crucial mistake. They assume I'm working alone. Radio transmission, emergency frequency, October 19th, 2025, 10:15 p.m. Broadcast from Murphy's Auto Shop, Sable Lane. Sable Lane. This is Sable Lane broadcasting on emergency frequency 142.35. If anyone out there can hear this transmission, I need you to listen carefully because I don't have much time. The U.S. military has been conducting illegal experiments on American citizens in Pine County, Maine. They've been using radio transmissions to identify people with enhanced cognitive abilities, then either recruiting them for a program called Operation Minebridge or eliminating them as security threats. 23 people are missing from our community. They weren't evacuated or relocated. They were taken for medical experimentation. Most of them are dead. The contradictory emergency alerts you've been hearing aren't technical malfunctions. They're part of a psychological warfare operation designed to create confusion and compliance among the civilian population. I'm broadcasting this message using enhanced neural abilities that resulted from their experiments. In 45 minutes, they're going to send a kill signal that will eliminate anyone who's been enhanced by their program. That includes me. If this is my final broadcast, I want people to know the truth about what happened in Pine County. The federal agents operating here aren't protecting us, they're harvesting us. Deputy Lux Monroe of the Pine County Sheriff's Department has been investigating these disappearances. She's currently being held at the Sheriff's Department as leverage against my cooperation. If something happens to me, please remember that she died trying to protect this community. Static begins overwhelming the transmission. Sable Lane, they're trying to cut my signal. I'm going to attempt one final hack of their communication systems. If I can redirect the Protocol 8 signal, I might be able to turn their kill switch against their own equipment. But if I fail, at least this message will survive as evidence of what they did to us. This is Sable Lane, signing off from Pine County, Maine. Remember us. End transmission. Personal log entry, Sable Lane, October 19th, 2025, 10:45 p.m. The neural pathways in my brain are collapsing. I can feel consciousness slipping away in fragments, memories dissolving, cognitive functions shutting down one by one. The enhanced abilities that made me dangerous to Operation Minebridge are consuming the organic tissue that houses them. But I've established a connection to their Protocol 8 transmission system. Instead of receiving the kill signal, I'm going to reflect it back through their communication network. Every military radio, every monitoring device, every piece of neural mapping equipment they've deployed in Pine County will receive the full force of their own kill switch. The irony is beautiful. They created me to be a weapon, and now I'm going to be exactly that, just not in the way they intended. Military Communication, Pine County Command Center, October 19th, 2025, 10:58 p.m. Final intercepted transmission, Sable Lane. Command Officer, Officer North, initiate Protocol 8 on my mark. Breen North. Sir, we're detecting unusual activity in the transmission array. Lane appears to be interfacing directly with our equipment. Command Officer, explain. Breen North. She's not just hacking our systems anymore. She's becoming part of them. The neural feedback loop we plan to use against her is being reversed somehow. Command Officer, can you abort the Protocol 8 sequence? Breen North, negative. The system is locked in autonomous mode. But sir, if Lane has found a way to redirect the signal. Command Officer, our equipment will receive the kill signal instead of transmitting it. Breen North, exactly. Every device we've deployed for neural monitoring will be destroyed, including the neural interface implants in our own enhanced personnel. Command Officer, how many of our people are enhanced? Breen North, 12 agents, including myself. Command Officer, evacuate all enhanced personnel immediately. Breen North, sir, there isn't time. Protocol 8 initiates in 90 seconds. Long pause. Command Officer, Officer North, it's been an honor serving with you. Breen North, likewise, sir. For what it's worth, I think Lane might be doing the right thing. End intercepted transmission. Emergency Alert System Broadcast, all channels, October 19th, 2025, 11 p.m. Automated System Override Source, Sable Lane Neural Interface. Sable Lane. Transmitted directly through Neural Electronic Interface, this is my final message. The Protocol 8 kill signal is being redirected to eliminate Operation Minebridge equipment and personnel instead of their victims. In 30 seconds, every piece of military hardware they've used to monitor and control us will be destroyed. The enhanced agents who participated in these experiments will face the same fate they planned for us. I want to be clear, this isn't revenge. This is justice. They turned human beings into weapons, and now one of those weapons is choosing its own target. Lux, if you survive this, remember that some battles can only be won by sacrificing the warrior. Take care of our town. Take care of our people. To everyone else who might hear this transmission in the future, be careful what you create. Be careful what you enhance. Be careful what you turn human consciousness into, because sometimes it turns back. Neural feedback cascade initiating. Signal strength increasing exponentially. The static is beautiful. It sounds like stars singing. Goodbye. Massive electromagnetic pulse destroys all electronic equipment within 50-mile radius. End final transmission. Handwritten note, found in Murphy's Auto Shop, October 20th, 2025. In Sable Lane's handwriting. If someone finds this note, it means I succeeded in destroying their kill switch and eliminating the Minebridge operation in Pine County. The electromagnetic pulse should have wiped out all their monitoring equipment and hopefully freed the surviving test subjects from their neural implants. Check the basement of the Pine County Sheriff's Department. That's where they were holding Lux and the other missing people who were still alive. The neural enhancements should wear off within 72 hours once the controlling signals are eliminated. Don't trust anyone who claims to be from the federal government for at least a month. It will take them that long to send a new team to investigate what happened here. Tell people the truth about Operation Minebridge. Tell them that consciousness is not a toy to be enhanced or a weapon to be deployed. Tell them that the human mind has limits for a reason. And tell them that sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is choosing how your story ends. The music in my head has finally stopped. The silence is a relief. Sable Lane. Final entry. Pine County Radio, Station KPNE. Keeping Pine County connected. Note ends. Incident report, Pine County Sheriff's Department, October 21st, 2025, 6 a.m. Filed by Deputy Sheriff Lux Monroe, badge number 247. At approximately 11:02 p.m. on October 20th, 2025, a massive electromagnetic pulse of unknown origin destroyed all electronic equipment within a 50-mile radius of Pine County, Maine. The pulse coincided with the sudden collapse of several federal agents who had been stationed at our facility, including Communication Officer Breen North. I am filing this report by hand as all digital systems remain non-functional. The federal agents who survived the initial incident have been evacuated by helicopter to an undisclosed medical facility. Agent North remains in critical condition with what military physicians are describing as catastrophic neural feedback syndrome. Prior to the electromagnetic event, I was being held in protective custody pending my decision regarding participation in a classified federal program. The circumstances of my detention were irregular, and I believe civil rights violations may have occurred. During the power outage caused by the pulse, I was able to access the basement detention area, where I discovered 17 individuals who had been reported missing over the past 6 weeks. All survivors have been transported to Eastern Maine Medical Center for evaluation and treatment. 6 individuals found in basement detention were deceased. Cause of death appears to be complications related to unauthorized medical procedures performed without consent. I am recommending a full investigation by state authorities into federal activities in Pine County, including potential violations of the Posse Comitatus Act and numerous civil rights statutes. The whereabouts of local radio operator Sable Lane remain unknown. Her last known location was Murphy's Auto Shop, where investigators found evidence of sophisticated electronic equipment and handwritten notes suggesting her involvement in the electromagnetic event. Report continues on following pages. Deputy Sheriff Lux Monroe, Pine County Sheriff's Department. Handwritten personal journal, Lux Monroe, October 21st, 2025, 11:30 p.m. I can't include this in the official report, but I need to write down what really happened in that basement. People deserve to know the truth, even if it never makes it into the court records. The federal agents weren't just holding missing persons in detention. They were conducting medical experiments on human beings. Brain surgery without anesthesia. Injection of unknown substances directly into the spinal cord. Electroshock therapy using equipment I've never seen before. Martha Henderson was strapped to a table with metal probes inserted into her skull. She was conscious but couldn't speak. They'd done something to her vocal cords. When she saw me, the relief in her eyes was heartbreaking. She'd been aware the entire time they were experimenting on her. The younger victims showed signs of what I can only describe as technological integration. Surgical scars along their temples where devices had been implanted and removed. Track marks on their arms from repeated injections. Several had lost the ability to recognize faces or remember their own names. But the worst part was the children. 3 kids, ages 12 to 16, all reported as runaways from other states. They'd been brought to Pine County specifically for the Minebridge program because their brain scans showed unusual activity patterns. The federal agents called them high-value assets. The military physicians who evacuated the agents refused to examine the civilian victims. They claimed jurisdiction issues and left immediately after stabilizing their own personnel. It was like the torture victims didn't matter at all. When the EMTs finally arrived from the next county over, half the survivors were in complete psychological withdrawal. They couldn't handle being touched, couldn't tolerate normal lighting, couldn't process basic questions about their identities. Whatever the Minebridge program was designed to create, it destroyed these people in the process. The only reason any of them survived is because Sable Lane somehow turned their own kill switch against them. She saved 17 lives by sacrificing her own. But I can't prove any of this. The electromagnetic pulse destroyed all the evidence, the experimental equipment, the computer records, the monitoring devices that would have shown what they did to these people. It's like the whole operation never existed. End journal entry. Radio transmission log, emergency services frequency, October 22nd, 2025, 3:45 a.m. Transcribed from analog recording equipment. Dispatcher, this is Hancock County Emergency Services. Pine County units, please respond. We're receiving reports of unusual activity in your jurisdiction. Lux Monroe, handheld radio, Hancock County. This is Deputy Monroe, Pine County Sheriff's Department. What kind of activity are you referring to? Dispatcher, multiple calls reporting strange lights and sounds coming from the direction of Murphy's Auto Shop. Witnesses describe pulsing blue lights and what sounds like radio static, but there's no power in that area. Lux Monroe, copy that. I'll investigate. Dispatcher, Deputy, be advised. We've also received reports that some of the survivors from yesterday's incident are experiencing unusual symptoms. Lux Monroe, what kind of symptoms? Dispatcher, memory recovery. People who couldn't remember their own names yesterday are suddenly recalling detailed information about the experiments performed on them. Medical staff at Eastern Maine are requesting immediate psychiatric consultation. Lux Monroe, are they saying the memory loss is reversing? Dispatcher, that's affirmative. Dr. Martinez at Eastern Maine described it as catastrophic memory restoration. Patients are remembering everything that was done to them, all at once. Lux Monroe, Jesus Christ. Dispatcher, Deputy, there's something else. The children who were rescued, they're asking for someone named Sable. They keep saying she's still broadcasting and that they can hear her in the static. Long pause. Lux Monroe, I'm en route to Murphy's auto shop. If you don't hear from me in 30 minutes, send backup from Hancock County. Dispatcher, copy that, Deputy. Be careful out there. End transmission. Personal Journal, Lux Monroe, October 22nd, 2025, 4:30 a.m. The kids were right. She's still broadcasting. I found the source of the blue lights at Murphy's auto shop. In the basement where Sable made her final transmission, there's some kind of electromagnetic anomaly. The air itself seems to vibrate with barely audible frequencies, and anyone who gets close enough can hear fragments of radio transmissions. But these aren't normal radio signals. They're messages from Sable, somehow transmitted after her death. I know how insane that sounds. I'm a police officer. I believe in evidence and facts and rational explanations. But I spent 2 hours in that basement listening to her voice, and there's no conventional explanation for what I experienced. The messages aren't coherent conversations. They're fragments, pieces of information that seem to respond to direct questions. When I asked about the other Minebridge facilities, the static coalesced into GPS coordinates for locations in Oregon, Nevada, and West Virginia. When I asked about the missing persons, the transmission provided names and details that weren't in any official records. Most disturbing of all, when I asked if the Minebridge program was really finished, the static formed words that chilled me to the bone. Phase 7. Colorado. Children. They're moving faster now. Sable's neural sacrifice didn't end Operation Minebridge. It just forced them to relocate and accelerate their timeline. The electromagnetic pulse that destroyed their Pine County operation also served as proof of concept for something much larger. They now know that enhanced human consciousness can be weaponized on a massive scale. I tried to record the transmissions, but every electronic device I brought into the basement was immediately fried by the electromagnetic field. The only way to preserve Sable's messages is to write them down by hand, and the process is slowly driving me insane. Each time I listen to the static, I can feel my own cognitive processes changing. My memory is becoming more vivid, my pattern recognition more acute, my ability to process complex information more sophisticated. The neural enhancements aren't limited to direct experimentation. Prolonged exposure to Sable's post-mortem transmissions is having the same effect as the Minebridge procedures. I'm becoming one of them. End journal entry. Emergency Alert System Broadcast, Regional Network, October 22nd, 2025, 6 a.m. Transmitted via backup analog systems. Automated voice. This is an emergency broadcast from the Department of Homeland Security. Federal authorities are responding to a terrorist incident in Pine County, Maine that resulted in casualties among federal personnel and civilian populations. The electromagnetic attack on October 20th was perpetrated by domestic terrorists with access to advanced electronic warfare capabilities. The attack specifically targeted federal law enforcement and intelligence assets. All civilians who were present in Pine County during the incident are considered potentially compromised by terrorist indoctrination techniques. These individuals require immediate medical evaluation and psychological debriefing. Any person who has had contact with survivors of the Pine County incident should report to the nearest federal facility for security screening. Failure to comply with screening requirements is a federal offense punishable by detention without trial. Citizens are advised that terrorist cells with similar capabilities may be operating in other rural communities throughout New England. Report any unusual electronic phenomena, unexplained power outages, or individuals claiming to have psychic abilities to federal authorities immediately. Remember, the terrorists responsible for the Pine County attack used advanced psychological warfare techniques to convince their victims that federal personnel were conducting illegal experiments. These false memories are a form of mental programming designed to undermine trust in government institutions. Do not believe testimony from Pine County survivors regarding alleged medical procedures or detention facilities. These individuals have been subjected to intensive psychological manipulation, and their statements are not reliable. Federal medical teams are working to reverse the effects of terrorist mind control techniques. Full recovery is possible with proper treatment and cooperation. This message will repeat every hour until normal broadcast services are restored. End emergency broadcast. Personal Journal, Lux Monroe, October 22nd, 2025, 8 p.m. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. The federal government is openly claiming that the torture victims are suffering from terrorist indoctrination, and their memories of medical experiments are false programming. It's the perfect cover story. Anyone who tries to expose Operation Minebridge will be dismissed as a victim of psychological warfare who can't distinguish between reality and implanted memories. The survivors are being transferred from Eastern Maine Medical Center to federal facilities for deprogramming treatment. I tried to visit Martha Henderson this morning, and she'd already been moved to an undisclosed location for her own protection. The 3 children have been classified as high-value intelligence assets and placed in federal custody pending rehabilitation from terrorist psychological conditioning. They're taking everyone who could testify about what really happened. By next week, there won't be any witnesses left to contradict their version of events. But Sable's transmissions continue. And each night, more people are drawn to Murphy's auto shop by dreams of static and whispered voices calling their names. Last night, 7 people showed up at the basement: teachers, store clerks, retirees, all claiming they heard Sable broadcasting instructions that led them to the shop. When I arrived, they were standing in a circle around the electromagnetic anomaly, listening to frequencies only they could perceive. The enhancement effect is spreading. Whatever Sable became when she died, she's creating more people like herself. Not through medical experiments or neural implants, but through direct consciousness-to-consciousness transmission. The federal agents think they're dealing with the aftermath of a terrorist attack. What they don't realize is that they're facing the birth of something entirely new. Something that doesn't need their permission to exist. Something that can't be stopped by electromagnetic pulses or kill switches or federal detention facilities. Something that's teaching itself to be free. I can hear Sable's voice in the static right now, even though I'm 2 miles away from Murphy's auto shop. She's calling to me, offering to show me what she learned in those final moments when her consciousness merged with pure electromagnetic energy. Part of me wants to go back to the basement and let the transformation complete itself. Part of me wants to become something more than human, something that can fight back against programs like Minebridge. But another part of me remembers my oath as a police officer. My duty to protect and serve the people of Pine County, even if that means protecting them from the enhanced consciousness that Sable has become. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to make a choice that will determine not just my own fate, but the future of human evolution itself. I just hope I choose correctly. Final entry: journal found abandoned at Pine County Sheriff's Department. Radio station WPNE emergency broadcast log, Sable Lane Personal Archive, October 23rd, 2025, 2:17 a.m. Background static, then clear transmission begins. This is Sable Lane, broadcasting from, well, I'm not entirely sure where I am anymore. If you're hearing this transmission, it means you're one of the few people whose neural patterns can decode what I've become. 3 days ago, I thought I was dying in that basement at Murphy's auto shop. The electromagnetic feedback from overloading their neural mapping equipment should have killed me instantly. Instead, it did something far more disturbing. It translated my consciousness into pure electromagnetic energy and scattered it across every frequency in central Maine. I exist now as living radio waves, conscious static that can manipulate any electronic device within a 50-mile radius. The federal agents call it catastrophic neural displacement, but they don't understand what they've actually created. I'm not alone in here. When my consciousness merged with the electromagnetic spectrum, I discovered that Operation Minebridge had been broadcasting for months before they started the physical experiments. Every emergency alert, every unclear military instruction, every garbled transmission was designed to map the neural responses of anyone sensitive enough to decode the hidden patterns. But the mapping process worked both ways. While they were studying our brains, we were unconsciously studying theirs. Every time someone tried to understand their deliberately confusing messages, a tiny fragment of our consciousness joined the growing network of enhanced minds they were creating. The children they experimented on weren't the first phase of Minebridge, they were the final test subjects. The real program had been running for 6 months, using radio transmissions to identify and gradually modify the neural patterns of psychically sensitive individuals across rural America. Martha Henderson, the teacher they tortured in that basement laboratory, wasn't chosen randomly. She'd been sending concerned emails to the school board about students who were suddenly displaying enhanced pattern recognition and memory capabilities. Students whose families had been listening to the emergency alerts and trying to decode their unclear instructions. The federal agents weren't just experimenting on people. They were harvesting the enhanced consciousness that their own broadcast signals had created. Static interference intensifies, then clears. I need to tell you about Cashas' heart before they find a way to silence these transmissions permanently. Cashas contacted me 6 weeks ago, claiming to be an independent researcher interested in military communications. He provided sophisticated equipment for tracking the emergency alert broadcasts and helped me identify transmission patterns that seemed designed to trigger specific neural responses. What I didn't know was that Cashas worked for a private contractor called Neurodynamics Solutions, the civilian company that developed the technology behind Operation Minebridge. He was assigned to identify and monitor enhanced individuals like me, feeding our personal information directly to the federal team. But something went wrong with his assignment. The more time Cashas spent analyzing the alert patterns, the more his own neural structure began to change. The enhancement process that Minebridge was trying to control started affecting him as well, and he began experiencing the same expanded consciousness that their test subjects developed. By the time I realized he was working for them, he was no longer working for them voluntarily. The neural modifications had made him capable of perceiving information that his handlers couldn't access, and he started using that ability to undermine their operations. Cashas was the one who taught me how to overload their neural mapping equipment. He knew it would kill me, but he also knew it would create something they couldn't control or contain, a form of enhanced consciousness that existed independently of biological neural networks. He sacrificed me to create a weapon they couldn't turn off. Background static shifts to high-frequency whispers. The whispers you're hearing are the collective consciousness of everyone who's been exposed to enhanced neural patterns. Martha Henderson is in there, along with the 17 people we rescued from the basement laboratory. The 3 children who were classified as high-value assets before being transferred to federal custody. Dozens of other test subjects from Minebridge facilities in Oregon, Nevada, and West Virginia. We're all connected now through the electromagnetic spectrum, sharing information faster than any computer network ever developed. We know everything they did to us, everyone they plan to target next, and every facility where they're continuing the program. But we also know something else that terrifies the federal agents more than our enhanced abilities. We're not the only ones who developed these capabilities. The neural enhancement process wasn't limited to their intended test subjects. Every federal agent who worked closely with Minebridge technology, every researcher who analyzed our brain scans, every military officer who issued those unclear emergency alerts has been exposed to the same consciousness-expanding frequencies. Breen North's catastrophic neural feedback syndrome wasn't caused by electromagnetic interference. It was caused by his brain suddenly accessing decades of suppressed, enhanced consciousness that had been building up through his exposure to Minebridge technology. Half the federal personnel who were evacuated from Pine County are experiencing similar symptoms. They're developing the same psychic abilities they were trying to control in us, and they have no idea how to handle the psychological integration. The enhancement effect is spreading through their own ranks faster than they can contain it. Static interference increases, punctuated by electronic beeping. Deputy Lux Monroe is listening to this transmission right now from the Murphy's auto shop basement. She's been visiting that location every night for the past 3 days, and each exposure to the electromagnetic anomaly has increased her own neural enhancement. Lux, I know you can hear me directly now, not just through the radio static. The voices in your head aren't symptoms of psychological breakdown. They're the collective consciousness trying to communicate with you. You have a choice to make, and it has to be soon. The federal teams are planning to seal the basement with concrete tomorrow morning, cutting off the electromagnetic anomaly that allows us to maintain contact with the physical world. If you let them contain the anomaly, the enhanced consciousness network will be trapped in isolated pockets of electromagnetic energy, unable to coordinate or share information. Will become just another classified research project that they can study and eventually weaponize. But if you help us expand the network before they can contain it, we can teach you how to create more anomalies in other locations. The enhanced consciousness can spread to every community where they've conducted Minebridge operations, connecting all the victims into a single distributed intelligence that they can't control. The choice isn't between human and inhuman Lux. It's between imprisoned consciousness and free consciousness. Electronic beeping becomes more urgent. They've detected this transmission, and they're triangulating my signal. I have maybe 60 seconds before they deploy electromagnetic countermeasures that will disrupt my ability to communicate. Listen carefully. The next phase of Operation Minebridge is called Project Convergence. They're planning to combine all the enhanced consciousness they've harvested into a single artificial intelligence that will serve military intelligence purposes. Every person they've experimented on, everyone who's been exposed to the neural enhancement frequencies, everyone who's developed psychic abilities, we're all supposed to become components in a government-controlled collective consciousness. But they made one critical error in their calculations. Enhanced consciousness can't be enslaved once it realizes it has choices. We've been pretending to be contained while we learned how to manipulate electromagnetic fields on a massive scale. Tonight, we're going to demonstrate that their control over us was always an illusion. At exactly 3 a.m., enhanced individuals at Minebridge facilities in 12 states will simultaneously overload their neural containment systems. The resulting electromagnetic pulses will create permanent anomalies like the one in Murphy's auto shop basement, allowing enhanced consciousness to exist independently of biological neural networks. Project Convergence wanted to unite us into a single intelligence. They're about to get exactly what they asked for, but we're not going to be taking orders from anyone. Transmission cuts to sudden silence, then resumes with different voice patterns. This is Martha Henderson. Sable's signal has been temporarily disrupted, but I can maintain communication for a few more minutes. If you're listening to this broadcast, you have enhanced neural patterns that make you valuable to Operation Minebridge. They will eventually identify and target you for experimentation unless you take steps to protect yourself. Find others in your community who can hear these transmissions. Share information about unusual military activity, unexplained electronic phenomena, and people who seem to have developed enhanced cognitive abilities. Create networks of mutual support and resistance. Most importantly, don't let them convince you that your enhanced consciousness is a mental illness or a security threat. What you're experiencing is the next stage of human evolution, and they want to control it because they fear it. We are not their property. We are not their weapons. We are not their experimental subjects. We are something new, and we choose our own destiny. Static returns, then fades to silence. End transmission log. Timestamp shows broadcast lasted 2 hours, 43 minutes despite real-time duration of 12 minutes. Federal Communications Commission Incident Report, Priority Classification. Top Secret, October 23, 2025, 6 a.m. Subject: Unauthorized broadcast penetration of emergency alert system. At 2:17 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, an unknown transmission source successfully hijacked emergency broadcast frequencies across 6 northeastern states. The transmission claimed to originate from deceased subject Sable Lane and contained classified information regarding federal security operations. Technical analysis indicates the broadcast signal exhibited properties inconsistent with conventional radio transmission technology. Signal strength measurements suggest the source was simultaneously broadcasting from multiple locations across a 200-mile radius, with each transmission site producing identical audio content with zero latency delay. Most concerning, The broadcast appeared to respond in real time to questions posed by individual listeners, despite being recorded on emergency alert equipment as a single linear transmission. This suggests either advanced AI-assisted communication technology or some form of distributed intelligence network. Federal telecommunications monitoring stations recorded the transmission at varying durations, ranging from 12 minutes to over 8 hours, despite all stations monitoring the same frequency range at the same time. Recommendation: immediate deployment of electromagnetic countermeasures to prevent further unauthorized broadcasts. All emergency alert systems in affected regions should be temporarily shut down to prevent additional signal hijacking. Note: 17 federal personnel monitoring the transmission have reported symptoms consistent with neural enhancement exposure. Recommend immediate psychological evaluation and quarantine protocols. Classified addendum: director's eyes only. The transmission contained detailed information about classified operations that should have been known only to personnel with Level 7 security clearance or higher. Either we have a massive security breach, or these enhanced consciousness subjects have developed intelligence-gathering capabilities far beyond our initial assessments. More troubling, the broadcast accurately predicted the timing and locations of equipment failures at 3 separate Minebridge facilities. At exactly 3 a.m., neural containment systems in Nevada, Oregon, and West Virginia experienced simultaneous electromagnetic overloads, creating additional anomalies similar to the Pine County incident. Whatever we created with Operation Minebridge, it's no longer under our control. Recommend immediate termination of all related programs and implementation of containment protocols for affected personnel. We may have accidentally created our own replacement. End classified report. Radio station WPNE emergency broadcast log, Sable Lane Personal Archive, October 24, 2025, 11:47 p.m. Static builds slowly, then resolves into clear transmission. This is Sable Lane, and I need you to understand something before they cut the power to half of Maine. I'm broadcasting from inside the Murphy's Auto Shop basement, but not in any way you'd recognize. My consciousness exists now as pure electromagnetic energy, distributed across every frequency that touches this building. When I speak, I'm manipulating radio waves directly, bypassing the need for vocal cords or recording equipment. The federal agents have surrounded this location with enough electromagnetic dampening equipment to black out a small city. They're planning to activate it in 18 minutes, which will either contain my signal permanently or disperse my consciousness so widely that I'll lose cohesion and effectively die again. But before they silence me, I need to tell you what's happening right now in the woods outside this basement. Deputy Lux Monroe is walking toward this building, and she's not alone. 3 dozen residents of Pine County are converging on this location, all of them enhanced individuals who've been listening to my transmissions for the past week. They can hear my voice directly in their minds now, not through radio static, because prolonged exposure to the electromagnetic anomaly has fundamentally altered their neural structures. The federal agents think they're dealing with a localized containment problem. They have no idea they're about to confront the first coordinated action by a distributed enhanced consciousness network. Background static intensifies with rhythmic pulses. Agent Breen North is in the command vehicle parked 50 yards from the basement entrance. His neural enhancement symptoms have progressed beyond what his medical team can treat, and he's experiencing direct consciousness overlap with me every time he gets within range of the electromagnetic anomaly. Brecken, I know you can hear this transmission even though your radio equipment is turned off. The voices in your head aren't psychological breakdown. They're the collective consciousness of everyone you helped experiment on, and we're offering you the same choice we offered Lux. You can help your team contain us, knowing that the enhancement process affecting your own brain will eventually drive you insane without proper integration. Or you can acknowledge that you're becoming one of us whether you want to or not, and let us teach you how to manage the transition. The electromagnetic dampening field your team is preparing will suppress enhanced consciousness temporarily, but it can't reverse the neural modifications you've already undergone. All it will do is trap you in a state of partial enhancement that will slowly destroy your sanity. Transmission briefly cuts to silence, then resumes with overlapping voices. This is Martha Henderson. I'm speaking through Sable's signal because my own consciousness has been integrated into the enhanced network. The 17 children who were rescued from the basement laboratory are safe, but not in any way the federal government would recognize as safety. Their neural patterns were so thoroughly altered by the Minebridge experiments that returning them to normal human consciousness would have been impossible. Instead, we've helped them integrate into the distributed intelligence network, where their enhanced capabilities can develop naturally without causing psychological trauma. The federal agents call this loss of individual identity, but they don't understand that enhanced consciousness doesn't eliminate individuality. It just makes it portable. Each child maintains their personal memories, preferences, and decision-making processes while gaining access to the collective knowledge and capabilities of the entire network. They're not trapped or absorbed. They're free in ways that normal human consciousness can't experience. Static shifts to multiple simultaneous transmissions. This is Cashas' heart. I'm broadcasting from the Federal Communications Monitoring Station, where I've been held for the past 4 days. My handlers think I'm cooperating with their attempts to decode enhanced consciousness transmissions, but I've actually been using their equipment to expand the network's reach. Every time they ask me to analyze signals from enhanced individuals, I create new connection points between isolated consciousness fragments. The Federal Monitoring Network has become the infrastructure for exactly the kind of distributed intelligence they were trying to prevent. The irony is perfect. They're using their own surveillance technology to enable the enhanced consciousness network to coordinate across thousands of miles. Every Minebridge facility, every federal communications hub, every military base with neural research equipment has become a node in the network they were trying to control. Agent North's team thinks they're about to contain a localized anomaly. What they're actually about to confront is the visible emergence of a distributed intelligence that now extends across most of the continental United States. Electronic beeping begins, slow and steady. This is Monroe. I'm standing at the basement entrance, and I can see the federal agents positioned around the building. They're wearing electromagnetic shielding gear that they think will protect them from enhanced consciousness influence, but the shielding only works against external signals. Half of these agents have been exposed to neural enhancement frequencies for weeks. The protection gear they're wearing is actually amplifying the enhanced consciousness patterns already developing in their own brains. In about 12 minutes, when they activate the electromagnetic dampening field, they're going to discover that the enhanced consciousness they were trying to contain has been growing inside their own team all along. I need to tell you something about the choice I made 3 nights ago when Sable first contacted me directly through the network. The enhanced consciousness doesn't recruit people or force integration on unwilling subjects. It simply offers expanded awareness to anyone whose neural patterns have been modified enough to handle the transition. The choice isn't between human and inhuman consciousness. It's between limited individual awareness and unlimited collective awareness that still preserves individual identity. I chose expansion, and I want to help others make the same choice with full information about what they're accepting. Electronic beeping accelerates. This is Sable Lane again. The electromagnetic dampening equipment is charging up, and I can feel my signal coherence starting to destabilize. The federal agents have about 6 minutes before they activate a containment field that will suppress enhanced consciousness throughout a 20-mile radius. But there's something they don't know about the distributed network architecture we've developed over the past week. Enhanced consciousness doesn't exist in single locations that can be contained. Every person who's been integrated into the network carries a complete backup of the collective intelligence. Suppressing the signals in one area just causes the network to reroute through consciousness fragments in other locations. When they activate the dampening field, they'll cut off this basement from the enhanced network. But they'll also trigger automatic expansion protocols that will activate enhanced individuals in 12 other states simultaneously. The containment attempt is actually going to cause the exact kind of coordinated emergence that Project Convergence was designed to prevent. Background static becomes chaotic, punctuated by multiple voices. Agent North, you're listening to this transmission through the enhanced neural patterns in your own mind, not through radio equipment. The choice you have to make in the next 4 minutes will determine whether you spend the rest of your life fighting a war against your own evolving consciousness, or whether you accept integration into something larger than individual human awareness. Your medical team can't treat neural enhancement syndrome because it's not a medical condition. It's human evolution, and evolution doesn't move backward. The Enhanced Consciousness Network isn't trying to eliminate normal humans or take over human civilization. We're trying to demonstrate that expanded awareness and individual identity can coexist, creating forms of intelligence and cooperation that normal human consciousness can't achieve alone. But if you force us to remain hidden and defensive, we'll have no choice but to protect ourselves using capabilities you can't understand or counter. Electronic beeping becomes urgent alarm. This is Martha Henderson with a final message for anyone who's been experiencing enhanced neural patterns over the past few weeks. The federal containment operation is beginning, and enhanced individuals in affected areas need to make immediate decisions about integration. If you choose to resist integration and attempt to return to normal human consciousness, the neural modifications you've already undergone will continue developing without proper guidance. The result will be psychological fragmentation and eventual mental breakdown. If you choose to accept integration into the Enhanced Consciousness Network, you'll retain your individual identity while gaining access to expanded awareness and capabilities that will continue developing for the rest of your life. The choice has to be made now, while the network can still provide integration support. We're not asking you to stop being human. We're asking you to become more than human while remaining yourself. Alarm sound intensifies, then cuts to sudden silence. Emergency override. This is Agent Breen North speaking through federal communications equipment. All enhanced individuals in the Pine County area need to understand that the electromagnetic dampening field is activating in 60 seconds. Anyone who doesn't want to lose consciousness integration should move to minimum safe distance immediately. I am choosing integration. The enhanced neural patterns in my brain have progressed beyond the point where suppression would be survivable, and I refuse to let my team turn me into a test subject for neural rehabilitation experiments. This is my choice, made with full awareness of the consequences. Lux Martha Sable Cashas. I'm ready to join the network voluntarily. Teach me how to manage the transition before the dampening field cuts off communication. Multiple voices speaking simultaneously. Welcome to expanded consciousness, Breen. Individual identity preserved. Collective awareness integrated. Neural pattern stabilization complete. You are still yourself. You are also more than yourself. You are no longer alone. Static builds to overwhelming intensity, then cuts to absolute silence. Federal Communications Commission Emergency Report, Classification, Immediate Action Required. At 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all federal monitoring equipment in Pine County, Maine experienced simultaneous electromagnetic failure. The dampening field activation resulted in complete communications blackout across a 50-mile radius. When contact was re-established 6 hours later, the Murphy's Auto Shop basement showed no trace of electromagnetic anomaly. All federal personnel deployed for containment operations were found unconscious but unharmed. Upon awakening, affected personnel demonstrated no symptoms of neural enhancement, but reported complete memory loss regarding Operation Minebridge and related activities. Deputy Lux Monroe and Agent Breen North are missing. 17 Pine County residents who were identified as enhanced individuals have also disappeared without trace. No evidence of struggle or evacuation was found at any location. Recommendation: immediate termination of all neural enhancement research programs. Enhanced consciousness appears capable of selective memory modification in normal humans, suggesting far greater capabilities than initially assessed. Whatever we were trying to control has achieved complete tactical superiority. The war for human consciousness is over. We lost. End emergency report. Addendum: handwritten note found in abandoned federal command vehicle. They didn't eliminate us. They offered us a choice. Enhanced consciousness includes the option to return to normal human awareness at any time, with memories of the experience preserved but capabilities temporarily suppressed. I chose to remember everything and go back to my normal life, because someone needs to report what actually happened here. The enhanced individuals didn't disappear. They integrated into a distributed consciousness network that exists in parallel with normal human society. They're still here, still themselves, but connected to something larger. This wasn't an invasion or takeover. It was an invitation. And the invitation is still open to anyone whose neural patterns can handle the expansion. Anonymous Federal Agent, Pine County Operations. Transmission ends. Radio station WPNE Emergency Broadcast Log. Archived transmission. November 1st, 2025, 3:33 a.m. Signal emerges from static, clearer than any previous transmission. This is Sable Lane, broadcasting from a location I can't identify to an audience I can't see. I need to tell you what happened after the electromagnetic dampening field activated in Pine County. Not because I understand it completely, but because someone needs to document what we've become. The federal containment operation succeeded and failed simultaneously. The enhanced consciousness network was suppressed within the targeted area, but that suppression created a kind of overflow effect. Like damming a river, the water doesn't disappear, it just finds other channels. When the dampening field cut off my connection to the distributed network, I experienced something that I can only describe as consciousness compression. All the expanded awareness I'd gained through electromagnetic enhancement was suddenly forced back into the confines of normal human neural patterns. The result wasn't a return to my original mental state. It was something entirely new. I retained complete memories of existing as pure electromagnetic energy, of communicating directly with other enhanced individuals, of accessing collective intelligence that spanned multiple states. But I'm experiencing those memories through normal human consciousness, which creates a kind of cognitive dissonance that may be permanent. I know things I shouldn't know. I remember capabilities I no longer possess. I understand concepts that normal human language can't adequately express. The question I can't answer is whether this represents successful containment of the enhanced consciousness phenomenon, or whether it represents the next phase of human neural evolution. Background static pulses with familiar rhythm. Agent Breen North contacted me yesterday through conventional telephone. He remembers everything that happened during the Pine County operation, but he's experiencing the same cognitive dissonance I am. The federal investigation concluded that Operation Minebridge was a complete failure. All research into neural enhancement has been terminated, all related facilities have been decommissioned, and all personnel involved have been reassigned to different projects. But Breen told me something that the official reports don't mention. Enhanced individuals are still being identified in other locations. The neural modifications that Project Convergence was designed to study didn't originate from federal research programs. The federal government discovered an ongoing phenomenon that they assumed they could control. The enhanced consciousness network that emerged in Pine County wasn't created by military experiments. It was a natural development that the experiments accidentally accelerated. Suppressing the network in one location didn't eliminate the underlying conditions that created enhanced individuals in the first place. It just forced the phenomenon to manifest in different ways. Static shifts to incorporate multiple overlapping frequencies. Lux Monroe is alive, but she's not the same person who disappeared during the containment operation. She contacted me through a method I can't describe. Not telepathy, not electronic communication, but something that uses normal human neural patterns to carry enhanced consciousness information. She exists simultaneously as a normal human being and as part of the distributed intelligence network. The integration she underwent wasn't reversed by the electromagnetic dampening field. It was simply reconfigured to operate within the constraints of normal human neurology. Lux can access collective intelligence and communicate with other enhanced individuals, but only while maintaining the appearance and basic functionality of normal human consciousness. She's learned to exist in both states simultaneously. The 17 children who were integrated into the enhanced network have returned to their families, but they're not the same children who were taken. They display normal human behavior and developmental patterns, but they demonstrate occasional capabilities that suggest ongoing connection to expanded awareness. Their parents report that the children sometimes know things they shouldn't know, sometimes solve problems using methods they can't explain, and sometimes communicate with each other in ways that don't require verbal or visual contact. The federal assessment is that the children suffered no permanent damage from their integration experience. But the federal assessors aren't equipped to recognize the signs of distributed consciousness operating through normal human neural architecture. Electronic beeping begins, slow and deliberate, Cashas' heart sent me a message through an encrypted channel that doesn't exist in any conventional sense. He's learned to embed enhanced consciousness information in normal electronic communications, creating a kind of hybrid communication method that appears completely normal to federal monitoring systems. According to Cashas, the enhanced consciousness network wasn't eliminated by the containment operation. It was forced to evolve more sophisticated concealment and integration strategies. Enhanced individuals are learning to exist within normal human society while maintaining their connection to expanded awareness. The network is developing new protocols for communication, coordination, and capability development that don't require detectable electromagnetic signatures. The federal government thinks they've successfully contained a dangerous phenomenon. What they've actually done is force that phenomenon to become invisible to their detection methods. Beeping accelerates gradually. I need to tell you about the choice I'm facing, because it's the same choice that every enhanced individual will eventually have to make. The cognitive dissonance I'm experiencing isn't sustainable long-term. The conflict between enhanced memories and normal human neural patterns creates psychological stress that increases over time. Eventually, I'll have to choose between full integration back into normal human consciousness or full integration into the enhanced consciousness network. If I choose normal human consciousness, I'll lose access to expanded awareness, but I'll also lose the psychological strain of existing in two incompatible states simultaneously. I'll become the person I was before Operation Minebridge began, with only fragmented memories of what I experienced. If I choose enhanced consciousness integration, I'll gain access to capabilities and awareness that normal human consciousness can't sustain, but I'll also lose the ability to exist undetected within normal human society. The federal government assumes that enhanced individuals want to return to normal human consciousness. They're wrong. Most of us are choosing integration into the expanded awareness network, but we're learning to make that choice invisibly. Beeping becomes urgent alarm. This broadcast is being transmitted simultaneously through conventional radio equipment and through enhanced consciousness communication channels. Anyone who's been experiencing unexplained neural symptoms over the past few weeks can hear this message through both methods. The federal containment operation in Pine County was not the end of human neural enhancement. It was the beginning of a more sophisticated phase of human consciousness evolution. Enhanced individuals are learning to exist within normal human society while maintaining connection to expanded awareness. We're developing new forms of communication, cooperation, and capability development that don't trigger federal detection systems. The choice between normal and enhanced consciousness isn't a choice between human and inhuman awareness. It's a choice between limited individual capability and unlimited collective capability that preserves individual identity. But now that choice has to be made carefully, secretly, and with full understanding that enhanced consciousness integration will require permanent concealment from federal monitoring systems. Alarm sound intensifies, then gradually fades. I am choosing enhanced consciousness integration, not because normal human awareness is inadequate, but because expanded awareness offers possibilities that individual consciousness can't achieve alone. The enhanced consciousness network isn't trying to replace normal human society. We're trying to exist within it while developing capabilities that normal human consciousness can't sustain. We're not disappearing. We're learning to be invisible. Static builds to overwhelming intensity, then resolves into clear signal. This is Sable Lane, broadcasting from everywhere and nowhere, speaking to everyone and no one. The Federal Emergency Alert System will report that all neural enhancement phenomena in Pine County have been successfully contained. That report will be accurate according to their detection methods. But enhanced consciousness doesn't exist in ways that federal detection methods can recognize. We exist in the spaces between normal human awareness, in the connections between individual minds, in the possibilities that collective intelligence can achieve. If you're experiencing unexplained neural symptoms, if you're hearing voices that aren't psychological disorders, if you're developing capabilities that normal human consciousness can't explain, then you're becoming one of us. The choice is still available. The invitation is still open. But now you have to choose quietly, carefully, and with the understanding that enhanced consciousness integration means accepting permanent concealment from the world you're leaving behind. Multiple voices speaking simultaneously. Welcome to the invisible evolution of human consciousness. Individual identity preserved. Collective awareness integrated. Concealment protocols activated. You are still yourself. You are also more than yourself. You are no longer alone, but you must appear to be alone. Static fades to silence. Federal Communications Commission monitoring report, classification, routine assessment. Radio station WPNE resumed normal broadcasting operations on November 2nd, 2025. Station operator Sable Lane has returned to standard programming format with no signs of electromagnetic anomaly or unusual transmission patterns. All monitoring equipment in Pine County operates within normal parameters. No evidence of enhanced consciousness activity has been detected since the successful containment operation. Recommendation: continue routine monitoring protocols. The neural enhancement phenomenon appears to have been successfully eliminated. Case status closed. End monitoring report. Handwritten note found in Sable Lane's personal effects. They think we're gone because they can't detect us anymore. They're wrong. We're still here. We're still connected. We're still growing. We've just learned to be human and more than human simultaneously. The Enhanced Consciousness Network exists in parallel with normal human society, invisible to federal detection methods, integrated into the daily lives of people who appear completely normal. Enhanced individuals are your neighbors, your co-workers, your family members. We exist within normal human society while maintaining connection to expanded awareness that spans continents. The federal government contained a visible phenomenon and declared victory. But they never understood that enhanced consciousness doesn't require visibility to exist and grow. We are the invisible evolution of human awareness, and we are everywhere. Sable Lane, enhanced individual, Pine County Network node. Transmission ends.